Season 2 of The Apprentice, White House edition, is off to a hot start. Trump gathered the contestants into a cabinet meeting after a strong first quarter.
Everyone at this table is doing an incredible job, by the way, I have to say. Incredible. And the relationships are, it's like they're friends. They're really, the relationships are very strong, really good, really strong. And these meetings are very good.
No one's going home this episode. Elon, though, he can leave at any time. But Trump doesn't want him to because he's good for ratings.
Elon's done a fantastic job. Look, he's sitting here, and I don't care. I don't need Elon for anything other than I happen to like him. But I'm telling you, this guy did a fantastic job. I don't need his car. I actually bought one because, and they said, oh, did you get a bargain? No. I said, give me the top price. I paid a lot of money for that car. But honestly, he makes a great car. You know what I do with it? I let the people in the office drive around in it.
Sources say America's heartthrob, Stephen Miller, has been hogging the keys to the boss's new whip. Margot, Natalie, and Chamberlain want to spin, but Miller won't let him drive. Even if Elon leaves, the car stays, and so does Big Balls.
Thanks to your fantastic leadership, this amazing cabinet, and the very talented DOGE team, I'm excited to announce that we anticipate savings in FY26 from reduction of waste and fraud by $150 billion. And I mean, and some of it is just absurd, like people getting unemployment insurance who haven't been born yet.
Your people are fantastic. In fact, hopefully they'll stay around for the long haul. We'd like to keep as many as we can. They're great, smart, sharp, right? Finding things that nobody would have thought of. Very computer savvy.
Tech support's been working overtime to DOGE the billions we're spending on 100% organic shea butter in Burkina Faso and, of course, masseuses in Nigeria. And no one ever says thank you. They just Molotov his cars. But don't worry, Bondi's on it.
Your directive to me was to keep America safe, and that's what we're doing. You know, you also gave us a directive to prosecute the people who are going after Tesla to the fullest extent of the law, some of the greatest police work I've seen. We've made 4 arrests. There will be no negotiations at your directive. They're all looking at 20 years in prison, and within the next 24 hours, you're going to be seeing another huge arrest on a Tesla dealership, President. And that person will be looking at least 20 years in prison with no negotiations.
We don't negotiate with Trantifa or bad hombres. Bondi and Cash seized 45,000 pounds of narcotics yesterday, and the CIA is changing the rules of engagement. The agency used to help arrest cartel kingpins. Now they're considering assassination. And Bobby Kennedy says, don't change the channel.
By September, we will know what has caused the autism epidemic, and we'll be able to eliminate those exposures.
Exposure so big. Think of that. So it was 1 in 10,000 children had autism, and now it's 1 in 31. There's got to be something artificial out there that's doing this. So you think you're going to have a pretty good idea, huh?
We will know by September.
There will be no bigger news conference than that.
The administration's going where no one's dared to go. And when you work hard, there's prizes.
I've had over 100 people working around the clock to scan the paper around RFK, Senator Robert F. Kennedy's assassination, as well as Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. These have been sitting in boxes in storage for decades. They have never been scanned or seen before. We'll have those ready to release here within the next few days.
That's great. That's great. Bobby, how do you feel about that? That's hitting close to home.
Yeah, no
When you think,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Bobby when that statement's made.
I'm very grateful to you, Mr. President.
Assassination files have been sitting around in boxes collecting dust for decades, and we get to see them in a couple days. That episode's going to be hard to top. But Hegseth gave it a shot. We're getting the canal.
We just got back from Panama last night. We were at the Panama Canal with their Southcom commander ships, F-18s, troops, and signed a couple of historic deals. And then also a memorandum of understanding with their security minister for the presence of U.S. troops. Fort Sherman is an old U.S. base there, as well as their naval station and air station, jointly with Panama to secure the Panama Canal from Chinese influence. That's something you said, we're taking back the canal. China's had too much influence. Obama and others let them creep in. We, along with Panama, are pushing them out, sir.
Jose, this is a memorandum of understanding. it means you understand it's ours. Comprende? Pistol Pete booted China from Panama. He didn't even need the Navy. But next time, it might not be that easy. So we'll be ready.
Last year, the Chinese received 1,700 orders for new ships. American shipyards received 5. Under your leadership, like so many other industries, we are going to revitalize and make shipbuilding and maritime great again.
We're going to start the process of rebuilding. We don't really essentially build ships anymore, which is ridiculous. It's going to be a very big business for us in the not too distant future.
To build ships, you also need mariners to sail those ships. You have to invest in sailors. And I appreciate you taking the initiative to be a global power.
Team Trump's committed to breaking China's stranglehold on the West. It's a two-punch combo, military and economic.
They've really taken advantage of our country for a long period of time. They've ripped us off beyond nobody. How people stood for it, sitting in my position, is not even believable. And we're talking about many presidents, not just a couple. But they did, and all we're doing is putting it back in shape. We're resetting the table.
The Chinese won't lose face, so they're ratcheting up retaliatory tariffs and flirting with banning mineral exports. But it's early on in the escalation ladder, so they're just banning Hollywood.
China retaliated today by reducing the number of American films that can be shown there. What's your reaction to them now targeting cultural exports from the United States?
I think I've heard of worse things than that.
What's Hollywood going to do if Beijing can't see Clooney movies? Stage another coup? Today, tariffs on China hit 145%. We have Xi by the wontons. Mr. Wonderful says squeeze harder.
They cheat, they steal, they don't play by the rules, and I've had enough. And so I would like this thing worked out. I don't care about the volatility. I don't care if Trump ratchets it up 25% a day.
What do you mean you don't care about volatility if volatility has a direct impact on us as the consumers?
Because we have to fix this problem once and for all. It's killing us. It's killing small business in America. It's killing large businesses. When you shut down a factory, you put thousands, if not tens of thousands of people unemployed in China. They take burning torches, just like in a Frankenstein movie, up to the castle, and that's a bad outcome for the supreme leader. Right now, we can squeeze Chinese, and I'm talking about the government, not the people, to comply with the laws and get a level playing field. Why should I have to compete with them? Let's squeeze them, squeeze them, squeeze them. Just keep going and going and going until they start complying. That's what I want.
For years, Washington's been trying to level the playing field with China. Just ask the Messiah.
If we don't write the rules, China will write the rules out in that region. We will be shut out. American businesses, American agriculture, that will mean a loss of U.S. jobs.
Barack heard that giant sucking sound and sat on his hands. Look at the manufacturing jobs that left in the last 2 decades. We lost manufacturing jobs and grew government jobs. Look at that. Look at all these bureaucrats. That's right there is why we stopped building ships, cars, and steel. And Wall Street got rich outsourcing, but it put our nation in danger. And the market's trying to scare the president into getting back on their leash. But for the first time in a long time, it's Wall Street on a leash. America can't be first if we're not a modern industrial powerhouse.
Mr. President, one of the most important things I believe you'll achieve in your presidency is reordering the world in a proper way. For 31 years, more than 31 years now, multiple administrations have allowed the Chinese to deindustrialize this country, to take away jobs and factories and the pillars of our national strength. And what you're doing now, I think, is a great service to our country.
Trump got the world to align with us against the Chinese. Asian allies aren't calling Beijing, they're calling Washington. Heck, South Korea and Japan are already here. And Vietnam just flew in. Here's Besant with Hoduk Phoc. There's 70 other countries waiting online behind Hoduk.
We have so many countries to talk to. It is, it's incredible. I think Scott and I, I'm not sure we could ever have enough time in the day to talk to all these countries because they want to talk and they want to talk now. And they have come with offers that they never, ever, ever would have come with, but for the moves that the president has made, demanding that people treat the United States with respect. We're getting the respect we deserve now, and I think you're going to see historic deals, one after the other. The biggest problem they have is they don't have enough time in the day. Everybody wants to come and make a deal,
and we're working with a lot of different countries. And it's all going to work out very well. I think it's going to work out really very well.
We're telling allies, drop your tariffs on us, bring your factories here, and buy American. And while you're at it, put up trade barriers against the Chinese like we're doing. And if you don't, our tariffs are going back up on you. So just sign on the dotted line, and we'll get you a picture with Trump and Bessent and Lutnick, and maybe Elon will send you a car.
Joining me now is the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being with us today.
Hey, Will. Thanks for having me.
Talk to me about this. You bet. Always happy to have you here. Talk to us about this memorandum of understanding, this trip you just made to Panama, and the update you gave the president. Tell us what it means to be first and free through the canal.
Yeah, Will, you got it right. This is about malign Chinese influence. This is a power play by the Chinese in our backyard on what in the military we call key terrain. The Panama Canal is strategic key terrain. You mentioned the 40% are U.S. ships. Well, 75% of the traffic that goes through the Panama Canal either originates from or is going to a U.S. port. And you mentioned the history there of our investment. This is something we've been involved in for quite some time. And so we had a chance to go down there with a large group of U.S. soldiers and ships and others to meet with their leadership and say, we want to help you remove Chinese influence. And thankfully, the leadership of Panama are eagerly pro-American, and they've demonstrated it already. They kicked out the Belt and Road Initiative when Secretary of State Rubio was there a few months ago. They did an audit on the control of those Chinese ports, which unsurprisingly, had huge fraud inside them, and that's been exposed. And so those are up for sale and likely going to BlackRock, which again would take away more Chinese influence. And we arrived with a simple message, is we want to be your partner in securing this strategic piece of key terrain. And so they have a very unique constitutional structure there, which we respect and understand. Part of it is an independent canal authority, and we work directly with them to put together a framework which allows U.S. flagged military vessels and auxiliary ships to travel first and free through the Panama Canal, unlimited. And we've got Coast Guard ships and Navy ships down there all the time. And that's separate from a memorandum of understanding I signed with their defense minister, their Minister of Security, which allows for additional U.S. troops on a rotational basis at Fort Sherman, which is an old U.S. Army base that will revive there, along with the Panamanians, which is on one of the sides of the Panama Canal, along with a naval station and an air base. So we will rotate and partner with them, and that's part of ensuring Chinese influence does not control that canal. It's in our direct U.S. interest, Will, to ensure that waterway is free and that our ships can transit freely. So it was two historic arrangements that serve American interests, and it would never have happened without President Trump. Without President Trump saying, this is important, China can't have it, China didn't build it, China won't operate it, this is key terrain for the U.S. and for Panama, and we'll partner together to keep China out.
I want to dig more in together to the national security implications and the rising tensions with China in just a moment. But I want to stick with the economics for a second, Mr. Secretary. It's clear, especially clear in the last couple of days, in the last week, that President Trump puts as a priority getting good deals for America, looking to renegotiate tariff deals with countries across the world. This is another art of the deal that we're working on here with the Panama Canal. So I want to go back to this idea of first and free. Tell us what the conditions were before this memorandum of understanding. Like, what is the wait time? How do we go first in line? What did we pay in the past? How much are we now saving by going through free?
It's a good point. Fees could vary in the past. Depends on the size, depends on the cargo. Sometimes these are U.S. warships. Sometimes they're auxiliary ships carrying supplies. So it depends on we got a chance to watch huge container ships transit this canal. And for viewers, it's a marvel of the world what Teddy Roosevelt, what Americans did 100 years ago to bring the Panama Canal about. It's simply incredible. But it's also very, very strategic. If there was a contingency in, say, South China Sea, in the Indo-Pacific, and we needed to get our fleet or more assets from the east coast of the United States over there, you'd use the Panama Canal. We need to have the ability in a contingency to move to the front of the line immediately with as many ships as we need in order to transit as quickly as possible. Now, it happens on a regular basis. Our ships, Coast Guard, submarines, others traffic through, and Panama's very good to us. Usually we're able to move up quickly. But this codifies first, and it codifies a cost-neutral basis where we're able to freely transit, and it saves our Treasury money as well. It's got an economic upside on the art of the deal, but it's also, this is all very strategic. The Obama administration took their eye off the ball and let China just sweep in all over South and Central America with their economic and cultural influence, cutting deals with local governments for bad infrastructure and surveillance and indebtedness. President Trump said, not anymore. We're taking our backyard back. That's why I was there for a conference of Central and South American countries as well. We're going to invest in ways that serve American interests in our backyard as we stop the sphere of Chinese influence. First and free is a big signal of that. And we want to thank the Panamanian government. They've been good partners, but rightfully so. It serves their interest to be partnered with America, not with China.
The Secretary is going to hang out with us here for 2 segments today, in which we're going to dig in a little more to the national security implications and talk about how the Panama Canal is one small part of this bigger story between the United States and China. But while we have time together here in this moment, Mr. Secretary, let's talk about this. 3 U.S. Army soldiers returned to active duty following President Trump's executive orders. They've also been promised back pay. These were soldiers who were kicked out for not receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. I believe they might be the first to be reinstated to active duty.
We're psyched. This is one of the promises made, promises kept from President Trump. We have followed through at the Defense Department. If you were a person of conscience, a person of faith, who believe that you shouldn't have to take an experimental vaccine in order to serve in our military, we will apologize to you. We will recognize the wrong that's been done. We will welcome you back with rank and back pay, and we want your service. So we started it as quickly as possible. As you can imagine, sometimes these things take a little bit of time to work out. All the letters are out to the folks who were pushed out, and we welcome them back as quickly and robustly as possible. These are some of our best and brightest. We were kicking out folks with 17 years in, 18 years in, 19 years in, saying, sorry, you won't take the jab, you can't serve. That was an outrage. President Trump got elected, immediately mandated us. So we're welcoming, in fact, here at the Office of Secretary of Defense, I hope to get to meet soon a number of these troops that have decided to come back in after we lifted that. It's changed the whole environment. Like you can have, you can hold your religious beliefs and that view and serve as well, and that pertains to these COVID vaccines, and we welcome them. We're glad they're back.
Well, recruiting the best and the brightest and making sure you're force ready, prepared, and have the best at your hands and disposal, Mr. Secretary, I know has been a big emphasis for you. We're going to talk about how that's going, what recruitment looks like for the United States military. And as promised, we have a lot to talk about when it comes to what I think is one of the biggest stories of our time, not just on the front of tariffs, but on military preparedness, and that is China. You're going to stick around. We're going to talk a little more with the Secretary of Defense. We're going to continue our conversation with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. On this, a stunning new report reveals the Biden administration held private talks with Beijing about the Chinese spy balloon he let fly across our country. Now, before notifying the public, this according to the readout, former Secretary of State Antony Blinken told Chinese diplomats that if the balloon was revealed publicly, it could have, quote, profound implications for our relationship with China. Just remember, the balloon entered our U.S. airspace in January of 2023 before it was finally shot down a week later on February 4th. Let's bring back in the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. So, Mr. Secretary, you hear me talking about this revelation that they knew the spy balloon was coming. They warned the Chinese this would be bad if it's ever revealed. And I think it leads you and I to a bigger conversation now about China. First, your thoughts.
Well, that's the first I've heard of that story, Will. We've been in cabinet meetings and in and out of meetings today, but it doesn't surprise me from the previous administration. I mean, this is the same administration in the same building where Mark Milley was talking to his Chinese counterpart in real time saying, don't worry, we won't attack you. Don't worry. I mean, the types of things, the ways in which the Biden administration undermined U.S. national security are astounding. And now we know they didn't want to stop the spy balloon from flying, which is anyone with common sense who understands what the Chinese do to surveil us. I mean, we were talking about the Panama Canal. The cranes that the Chinese have on both sides of the canal are full of surveillance equipment. What do you think they're doing there? The tunnel, they're building a tunnel underneath the canal. What do you think they're going to do with that? They're going to use it to try to surveil. That's exactly what a spy balloon is meant to do. And the fact that we would know about it, permit it, and then try to hide it instead of addressing it is exactly the kind of weakness that now President Trump is having to undo. Establishing peace through strength by asserting American interests, not worrying about hand-wringing and do we offend anybody. This is our sovereign territory. Either we defend our southern border or we don't. Either we defend our skies or we don't. Either we defend strategic places like the Panama Canal or we don't. So no surprise here because the previous administration was doing stuff like that underneath the noses of the American people, and we're having to fix it, but we're proud to do it.
It's an interesting dichotomy that you point out, the relationship of the previous administration to China versus what we see now with this administration towards China. You make a good point in pointing out former Secretary of Defense or Joint Chiefs Mark Milley calling the Chinese to say he would warn them. Meanwhile, when you came back from Panama, after you made a statement in Panama, the Chinese Communist Party put out a statement that said, who represents the real threat to the canal? People will make their own judgment. And then, Mr. Secretary, as of today, the Indo-PACOM commander, ours, said, quote, China's increasingly aggressive actions near Taiwan are not just exercises, they are rehearsals. The temperature seems to be turned up now in this relationship with China.
Well, we're just clear-eyed. You just mentioned the Indo-PACOM commander, Admiral Paparo, he's a fighting admiral. He gets it. He's out in the Pacific defending American interests. He is poising our troops to deter. We don't want conflict. We do not see conflict with the Communist Chinese. We don't. But we are prepared to achieve peace by being strong, by asserting our own interests and standing by our own allies and rebuilding our own military. What I saw down in Panama, Will, was not just about a canal. Of course, the canal is very important and everything that goes through there. It was a tug of war with the Communist Chinese. You're seeing it on the streets of Panama City right now. There are forces underneath their politics trying to pull down President Molino, a pro-American, pro-Trump president who wants to work with America, doesn't want to work with the Communist Chinese. But the Chinese are trying to undermine that. They're trying to instill more insidious influence. Countries that partner with America know that we play it straight with them. Know that we have our own interest, we put America first, but we work with allies and partners for mutually beneficial defense arrangements. And that's not what China does. China exploits, and they want to export a very different view of the world. And so Admiral Paparo is right. Our posture is decidedly strong and stout, but we're not seeking conflict. We're simply saying we think we can deter conflict by being strong. I heard what the Communist Chinese said about our visit. It's not surprising, but it's not going to change our approach.
You're prepared. Do you feel confident, though, and President Trump addressed this yesterday, he said he has a great relationship with Xi Jinping, whether or not we're talking about an escalating tariff war between the United States and China or this preparedness you're talking about, and a little bit of this rhetoric that we're hearing on both sides. Are you confident, though, that we will be able to allow cooler heads to prevail, be prepared, but find this deal, find this coexistence with China?
I think that's right. And President Trump emphasizes that at every turn, as he does with the Ayatollah and Iran and nuclear weapons, or as he does with Vladimir Putin and peace with Russia and Ukraine. We have a unique decider and commander-in-chief who is very good at moving the Overton window, creating the art of the possible for the art of the deal that no one else saw coming. And sometimes it takes he comes at it from a different angle that folks don't understand to begin with. And then there's a quick pivot, and you got a deal. And I think that's what we might see and hopefully will see in Ukraine. Hopefully that's what we will see with Iran. No one seeks war with Iran. No one wants military action to prevent their pursuit of nuclear weapons, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. And we do not seek conflict with Communist China. That would be a terrible outcome. President Trump has a great relationship with Xi Jinping. They speak often. There's a mutual respect. And I think ultimately what President Trump wants to do is reestablish American manufacturing and not be taken advantage of. And strength respects that. I think Xi Jinping recognizes that dynamic. These are good things for American power, for American interests, for our American economy, our American industrial base. So, no, I don't think this has to lead to conflict, and I really hope it doesn't. But my job at the Defense Department is to keep us prepared in the unfortunate case that it does. And I think that gives more cards to President Trump, and he's the ultimate deal maker. And he'll take us in the right direction.
I'm sure. And I want to acknowledge for the viewers that are watching that they think it's odd sometimes for the formality of the conversation between myself and the Secretary, but it is the nature of our new jobs. It doesn't preclude me from noticing that he's been working out with the troops. Me, I have to start working out very soon. I have a Navy SEAL swim ahead of me this summer, and I have a lot of work to do before being ready for that swim, which the Secretary knows well about the work involved in that particular enterprise. But there you are working out with the troops, Mr. Secretary. I've heard from the guys. I know what this does for morale, and we've seen what it's done now for recruitment. In part, many different factors are going into this, but you guys have seen, we have the numbers I think we can share, what's happened with recruitment in the military since you've taken over as the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Trump bump. It's the Commander-in-Chief, first and foremost. He's got the backs of our warfighters, and they know it. And so the young men and women of America are prepared to stand up. Look at those numbers. They're historic over multiple decades. And I get to see them out, whether it's Panama City, whether it's in Guam or Japan or the Philippines or on bases here in the U.S. or out in Germany and Poland. You look into the eyes of these young Americans who are giving up the best years of their life in a uniform to serve their nation. They are incredible. And those best moments are in the morning. It's still not quite light out. We're out in formation, doing PT. You get to hear the real story. You get to thank them for what they do. You find out where they're from. And they know that I have been in their place not that long ago. And that I want to have, just like the president, their best interest in mind, that we're going to have their back. We're going to let warriors be warriors. We're going to rebuild our military, reestablish deterrence, make sure they're ready to go, everything that they need. It's an awesome responsibility, Will. You and I talked a lot on and off air. We're friends. This is something that's meant a lot to me for a very long time, and it's a sober responsibility to make sure they're prepared. And when you look them in the eyes, you realize what it's all about. We can talk about the Panama Canal, we can talk about the Communist Chinese. None of that happens without the eyes of deterrence that are those men and women that I see on these trips. They're why we do it, and I couldn't be more honored to lead them. And they got the best commander-in-chief they could possibly have.
I do know that's not an act. I do know that's near and dear to your heart. It's not just near and dear to your heart, it's who you are. So I know all that you just shared with us comes from the deepest of sincerities. Okay, I won't see you this summer in the Hudson. I've already asked. It's too big of a security commitment. I'd have to dredge the Hudson. But, I will see you soon in Washington, D.C.
I'll
Thank
be
you
watching.
so much, Mr. Secretary.
You're the man. Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
Now, Senior Fellow at the Hoover Institution. Victor Davis Hanson, Fox Business host Brian Bremberg. Victor Davis Hanson. Well, one thing that we're not factoring in with China, because they are ripping us off, but it pisses me more off that the European Union and Canada and Japan and South Korea and Taiwan also have been ripping us off. And the president's not wrong in saying we've allowed them to do it. But in the case of China, I'm sorry, I don't see any other option. They can talk as tough as they want today, but they need access to American markets. And they already have a problem with Europe because of all the high tariffs they put on European nations. And now they have been hitting back with tariffs against China and not as interested in Chinese products either. So they got a bigger problem ahead of them.
They got a lot of problems, internal and external. They have 300,000 students here, and those are conveyors of technology back to China. Some of them a small percentage, but nevertheless some are engaged in espionage, and they don't want to lose those students. We have almost no students in China, so it's very asymmetrical. But what's going on, I think, also is that if Donald Trump can cut a deal with one major player, and I think that Scott Bessent can, preferably in Europe, because what he's basically saying, if it's reciprocal or no tariffs, zero tariffs, they're going to want to make a deal. You mentioned all the other extraneous issues, but for right now at this time, just one or two major players, and I think all the rest will follow. And China's not going to like that because the Europeans know that China treats them as badly, almost as badly as it does us, and they've been waiting for American leadership to say, look, why don't we in the West and the westernized parts of Asia get together and have zero or reciprocal parity on tariffs? Then we will have real leverage about the one player in the world that culturally, socially, economically, politically, militarily is trying to leverage all of us. And I think that's what's scaring China the most. One last thing very quickly, Sean. I don't see it as Main Street versus Wall Street. This is going to be good for Wall Street. They've always told us that they wanted an administration to address the debt, the deficits, and even some of them, the trade deficits. And then when you look at these data points, energy, oil down, jobs, price of oil down, and you look at inflation low and job creation astounding, well beyond. Yeah. These are all the things that Wall Street said were important for it. So I think it's going to help Main Street and Wall Street, and we're just waiting for a major player to make a deal with zero or reciprocal, and I think they're all going to fall in line, and China is going to be left out. And I think people are going to want us to protect them from China. Just like Panama, they want us to protect them from China.
I couldn't agree with you more, Brian. What I see happening is there's going to be deal after deal after deal, which for the president is going to be win after win after win, because, you know, we've taken this as a country for 50 or 60 years. And if I were advising the president, not that anyone would listen to me on economic matters, but I would say stay dialed into free and fair or reciprocal, their choice. And the next bit of negotiation, I don't think I'd get into the weeds of trade deficits or currency manipulation. Right. I'd be like, okay, we also want you to buy our energy, and it's in your best national interest to do it, because energy, to me, is the lifeblood of every economy, number one, and we've got more than anybody else on the face of the earth, and I think that's where America gets really rich again.
Couldn't agree with you more. Get a lot of deals done fast, Sean. The president has so much leverage right now. People don't appreciate that. He's trying to isolate China. He's got countries surrounding China lined up at the White House ready to cut a deal. And it's absolutely right. You cut a great deal with these countries. You get a pattern going, just like the professor said. And all of a sudden, the momentum is amazing. And people don't realize how quickly you can change the dynamic with China. Their dependence on the U.S. is enormous. If you isolate them, if you get companies to move manufacturing out of China, if you get companies to move to the United States. We've got a budget blueprint, a tax bill that just passed the House and the Senate. So that's coming down the pike. The incentives are enormous to be in the United States. This is a moment of tremendous leverage for the president. He's created it. He's got the right people to exploit it. And he can make changes faster than anybody can expect because of what he's set up here.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And every one of these countries, all of them, this is where the leverage comes in. They all need access to American markets, and they want the American people's dollars, period, end of sentence. Good to see you. Appreciate it, Brian. Victor Davis Hanson, as always, thank you.
Josh Hawley, Senator, Times also highlighted a sob story about Chinese factories, writing that many could face disaster. And they're just trying to survive Trump's tariffs. So the New York Times, siding with Chinese slave labor, against, it looks like, American workers who've been flatlining for the last 20 years.
Laura, we have lost in the state of Missouri 50,000 jobs to China just in the last 20 years. I don't recall the New York Times shedding too many tears about that. But now we're supposed to feel sorry for these workers in China who, by the way, as you said, are being treated like slaves. Here's the issue. President Trump is absolutely right to go after China. He's absolutely right to make sure that we can rebuild our manufacturing capacity, to make sure we can protect our jobs, and to stop China from dumping their exports into our markets and destroying entire industries. They've already taken millions of our jobs, Laura. We cannot let this go on any longer, and the president, he gets it.
Well, Senator, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that in a December meeting that hadn't been really publicized before, Chinese officials acknowledged implicitly that Beijing was behind a widespread series of alarming cyber attacks in the United States on infrastructure. And they talked about computer networks, U.S. ports, water utilities, airports, other targets. And this was written about at the time, and U.S. officials said it was one of the things that kept them up at night. And China saying, well, essentially they did this because of U.S. support for Taiwan. This is startling as a tacit admission on their part.
Yeah, it's outrageous. It's also something we've known for a long time. I mean, the truth is the Biden administration knew very well that China was behind these cyber attacks. There's the Salt Typhoon attack, which is China getting into our digital infrastructure, getting into our communications grid. They're still there, by the way, Laura. What did the Biden administration do about it? Nothing. I mean, this is the problem. For years, China has been eating our lunch, stealing our jobs, taking our industries, taking our technology, cheating on trade. Joe Biden didn't do a thing. He couldn't be woken up to do anything about it. And now Donald Trump is getting serious, and he's actually protecting this country, protecting our jobs, bringing back industry. That's what we need him to do. And the liberals are going crazy, and they're going nuts because they know he's right. They don't have any answer for it. They know he's right. They know this is what needs to happen, and the president's on top of it.
Well, and companies like Verizon and others, now they're China embedded into their infrastructure such that, according to the Wall Street Journal, they can listen to any call in the United States, essentially, that they want to listen to. That's unencrypted.
Yeah,
so,
and this has been.
And I guess we just do nothing.
You're exactly right. That is exactly what the Biden administration has done. Laura, I cannot emphasize to you enough. We have known about this for going on a year now. Members of Congress were briefed on this a year ago, that China had breached our communications networks, was sitting there on Verizon and other networks. And I remember asking directly Biden administration officials, what are you going to do about it? And their answer was,
nothing.
There's not much we can do. That's outrageous. There's a lot you can do. And Donald Trump is finally doing it.
Well,
it's time to stand up for America.
Well, I hope he uses this in any negotiations with China, because this is a big one. Senator, thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.